All right, I'm Daneyal Mirza. I really enjoy my presentations and I'm really comic about it. I hope so you enjoyed it as well. So my topic is Ubiquitous Knowledge Exchange. It's a conceptual framework for the 4.0 era. And I have a whole slide for myself. That's me. All right, so I'm Daneyal Mirza. You can call me Danny. It's easy to pronounce. For a start, let's talk about definitions and understand my topic. So for now, keep this in mind, the heading, Ubiquitous Knowledge Exchange Conceptual Framework for 4.0. So what do I mean by ubiquitous? Ubiquitous means something existing or being there everywhere at the same time, all over. Let's talk about knowledge exchange. It's a two-way mutually beneficial process through which knowledge, know-how, expertise is changed from one person to another. And then, what do I mean by the 4.0? What's that? It's the age of the fourth industrial revolution, in which there is like advanced technologies like AI, big data, and Internet of Things being applied at workplaces. So, what is the need? You know, I really hate research headings, so I don't use them, but usually it's called literature gap. But I keep it simple. I say, what is the need? So the world around us is changing exponentially. We know that. It's happening. And the way we manage and exchange knowledge is changing as well. So what has happened? We started from like the industry 1.0, where it was water and steam powered, really physical intensive work. Then it turned into electric powered, conveyor belts, these kind of things, division of labor. And then we turn into the last 2 decades, it's IT-oriented, electronic stuff, and we have like robots doing stuff. And now, the industry 4.0, where we have robots, AI-powered, Internet of Things doing stuff automatically. So that's where we are right now that's our journey. But that's not my question. So I wanted to investigate how was knowledge exchanged in all those eras. So I found research on it, and I saw that Industry 1.0, it was really passive. Things used to happen, and then people used to talk about it. And then in the Industry 2.0, it was active. People really wanted to solve problems. They knew problems were there. They were actively discussing stuff and exchanging knowledge. And then it was interactive with the internet. With the advent of the Web 2.0, people interact, Wikipedia, these kind of things came in. Then it was interactive. But there was no research in terms of Industry 4.0 and knowledge exchange. That's my gap. That's my question. So what do I have to find? Usually called the research question, drum rolls. You see that coming? How will knowledge be exchanged and managed in the 4.0 era? That's my research question. That's what I have to find. What did I do? I did a lot of stuff. So I started with an extensive literature review. We all do that. We all hate that, but we do it. So then we started with ethnographic methods. So I went to the company. I was in the setting of the Industry 4.0 at 6 sites, and I saw and collected data and took interviews there. And they were the industry leaders in 4.0 tech. I can name a few companies. It was HP and Rolls-Royce and a lab in Manchester and 3 other sites which I can't name. So that's something I did. That's my methodology. What did I find? So basically, I was looking, how was knowledge captured? How was knowledge used? How was knowledge processed and stored? And what was the context of the knowledge? So I found out that the context of the knowledge was an ambient intelligence system. So in the Industry 4.0, where the knowledge is being exchanged, the environment is intelligent itself. And the knowledge is being captured by something called ubiquitous sensing. So there is technology sensing everything around you. And then the knowledge is being used not by the human operator. The humans are now monitors. The robots are doing the action for them. And there is an ambient intelligence system doing it all. In the next slide here, I'll explain. So this is my baby. This is the framework that I've made out of the stuff and the time that I've spent in the industry doing the ethnographic study. So that's the model. So for example, let's take an example of a person. Let's take my example. So I'm Danny, that's me, though much slimmer. So that's me, I'm doing my work, and I want my knowledge and stuff that I'm doing in my office to be shared with somebody else. So what do? Do I go actively and talk to them? Do I make them a call? No. AI in my room, because I sit in an environment which is intelligent. The room where I'm working, it's intelligent. So the computer I'm working on it has AI in it. And it would capture all the knowledge through sensor, GPS, speech, image, and all that, save that in the ambient intelligence. Then I ask my digital assistant, which could be anything. In the case of HP, they have their own digital assistant. Basically, they have a robot as your colleague. They call it a cobot. So that's a cobot. So cobot can do anything you ask them to do. So most of the time what I've seen, because I do a human resource research as well, I see scientists and R&D people don't really like to talk to other people. So basically they can have an intelligent interaction with the robot and ask the robot to spread my knowledge and stuff that I've learned, that I'm doing, because they really do not want to leave the room. That's how they do stuff. So that's how it does. So they capture the knowledge, they use the knowledge, and that knowledge can be exchanged to another person's intelligent environment through the external events thing. So basically, I am just sitting doing my work, and the stuff that I've created automatically, and the word for automatically here is ubiquitously shared with anybody I allowed the knowledge to be shared with. And so let's take, the first thing is when you do research, does it matter? Or is it bogus? So does it matter, episode 1, usually called implications. So let's take the example of a baker. So Nunaka is a great researcher in knowledge management. So there was an example that there was a baker who used to bake stuff, all right? So they made a machine for baking and kneading the dough, the baker's baking stuff. But what happened was when they made the baking items from the machine, the taste wasn't the same. So they were worried, all right, what does the baker do special which the machine couldn't do? The trouble was because they did not involve the baker. So what they did was they made an apprentice sit with the baker for like 2-3 weeks, and he learned the skills and the way he kneaded the dough and all that. It took 2-3 weeks. But if you put the baker in my model over here, you just put the baker there, the baker does his thing, motion sensor and stuff, AI would just capture all the data that he's doing. You can have like pressure sensitive plates on it, and the pressure that he presses on the dough can be measured and all that. So basically within a day or two, via 3D printing, you can print a machine that can knead the dough similar to the baker. You do not need to spend a human capital, a person to sit with the baker and spend some time for like 2-3 weeks to learn the skill where AI can do it for you in this environment. Let's take another example. You know, I love this one. One of the most difficult talent in the world is to become a wine sommelier. You know how many years does it take to become a wine sommelier? Any guesses? 7. Too low. Any? 10. Kind of there. 20. Yeah? 20. Nearly there. 25. 30. So basically it takes 30 years to become a master sommelier. So who is a sommelier? Sommelier is a person who can smell and just taste any wine in the world and differentiate and explain what is the ingredients of the wine and how it is. So it takes 30 years to master that thing. But if you just take all the wine in the world, do the research for like an year, get all the wine in the world to an AI system, and put the chemical composition of all those wines and stuff into an AI system, now AI can smell as well. AI can taste just like humans, if they are developing these kind of technologies. So within an year, you could have an AI system which is as efficient as a wine sommelier. So you can save 30 years of a human's life. So that could assist you to do stuff better. I'm just 27, I'm married. Just imagine the person who like spent 30 years being a wine sommelier. So what is next? Obviously, no research is complete without limitations. So my research had limitations like, this was a proposal. This is a proposed framework. So now, like this was the stuff that I took out from my observations that I had in the industry. Industry was using my model in bits and pieces. Some of my company was just sensing stuff. Some of them were just using robots. So what I did was like I amalgamated everything and made one model. So what's next for me is like the PhD thing. So yeah, anyone wants to offer me a PhD in this, I'll accept that. So that's what I'm doing next. And I'll consider the ethical and social implications. While I was presenting the poster outside, I got really good feedback. I loved it because that's the best part of interdisciplinary research. So nearly there. So I loved it. Sue talked about judiciary, and then Amit talked about loss of jobs, and then Anna talked about, where are you, Anna? Anywhere? So Anna talked about, like, is it really AI and all? So I would really take that on board and improve my things. So what did we learn today? From being passive knowledge exchange to active to interactive, knowledge exchange now can be ubiquitous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Danny, and very relevant to the topic of today's conference.
Yes.
Has anyone got any questions?
I love questions. Come on.
One up here.
Do you think that there's a place for keeping the wine sommelier for the human interaction
So
Pay
the,
could be high, yeah.
so the question is there still room for humans in this kind of industry?
Yeah, basically what I can say is, not basis of my research, but then again, I can say you can get the wine sommelier a job at a wine place where he can be the master, and he can be the master and say, all right, I know this still, and it's like you can involve the wine sommelier in selling stuff and say, all right, I know this thing, so he can sell the stuff better. So he will have a job, he or she will have a job, don't worry. I don't think it would cost a lot, it's just assist them to be better.
We've got another question up here.
Yes?
And so with automation of things, automatically knowledge exchange, I trust a wine sommelier more than I would trust a computer in terms of what I'm going to enjoy to drink.
True.
How do you balance sort of the fact that, well, it's great we can get AI to do all this stuff for us, actually we're human, we like other humans.
Exactly, that's a really...
Sorry, it's just for the live stream. So the question is about how would you balance both the AI and the human levels of skill?
Exactly, that's a really nice point, and that's what I'm about to do for my PhD, to see how does the human element and human touch is still maintained, and basically some of the things, for example, back in my country, in Pakistan, people love the human touch. Basically, you can give them all kinds of technologies, they would still just believe. For example, I would give you an example of how important human touch is. You can give them all the medicines in the world at home, all right? It can cure them, but they would not believe that. They would really want to go to the doctor, and if the doctor says, you'll get all right. So they love it. I know there are people like this in the world, so we have to cater that. So I take that on board, and I believe there would be some mechanism. I would research on that. Exactly. And nice point.
Okay. Another question up here.
That's my friend.
Have you paid any attention to the cybersecurity and the privacy impacts of Industry 4.0?
So the question is about, have you paid any attention to cybersecurity and the impact of that in this?
I'm still working on that, but then again, it's inevitable. It's inevitable in the case that we have like cybersecurity threats even in our personal lives. That shouldn't stop us from going further ahead in all these kind of technologies. But then again, we would have a cybersecurity, because for my PhD, it would be a research group PhD. So basically, I would have like Internet of Things people's masters from that kind of cybersecurity people. So they would help me do this. So I'll take that on board. Obviously, there would be concerns, but then again, there are concerns everywhere. Is our privacy saved here? We have no idea about it. So it's inevitable to save that. That's what I believe. I'm from that school of thought.
Well, thank you very much. And with that, I think we need to move on because we're a little bit
Thank
short
you.
on time. So thank you again, Danny.
Thank you very much.